Hello and a warm welcome to all attendees joining today's webinar about PITSS.CON. It's time to upgrade to 12C. I'm Sasha, and it's a pleasure for me to moderate and take you through a quick tour through today's session. The key presentation of today's presentation will be performed by my colleague David Brown, VP Technology PITSS. So hope, David, that you can hear me well.
Yes, I can. Thank you, Sasha.
Thanks. Great that you're with us. Well, we've had the chance to deal with most upgrade and migration challenges during the past years, and we do have learned that the core aspects we should never lose sight of. So our migrations teams are very glad to share their experience and discuss specific challenges. So we'd like to do with latest version of Oracle Forms and reports released. Let's start with a quick view on today's agenda for this webinar. First, I'd like to take the chance for a quick introduction and update about PITSS and PITSS.CON products and solution stack. Then David will share our experience on upgrading to Forms 12C. So the main topics we will talk about will be an introduction of latest features of Forms 12C and how to take advantage of these new features. We will discuss the risks of staying with previous versions. We will talk about a full documentation of Forms applications. We will also discuss the benefits of analysis capabilities and how to identify redundant or even non-used code. So the target is to improve and accelerate the upgrade process and ongoing development as well. After the session, we will have a quick wrap-up, and of course we will have the opportunity to discuss all of your questions in a separate Q&A session. Therefore, like always, just some technical information at the beginning. To minimize sound problems, all attendees' mics are set on mute during the presentation. Of course, you will have the possibility to ask your questions by chat to any dedicated topics that may come up during the presentation. So therefore, please use the feature chat or the feature questions at the GoToWebMeeting application. You find this in the right bar of this app. So please feel free to log in all your questions during the presentations to be discussed and answered during the Q&A session. Some few bits and PITSS.CON, as we are around since '99, so 17 years in the business now. PITSS is working globally, directly from our headquarters in Germany with 2 locations. We are targeting the UK market out of London, Twickenham, for the Americas with a daughter company PITSS LLC out of Troy, Michigan. So moreover, we do collaborate in various regions with dedicated and certified PITSS partners providing our solution, and also expert services in their countries backed by PITSS directly. We are an experienced team of 80 experts. We are a leading provider of tools for Oracle Forms. We work successfully with multiple hundreds of companies internationally, performing forms modernizations, analyses, and ongoing development based on the solution PITSS.CON. Well, we are a long-standing Oracle partner. We are a preferred migration partner. We're doing even beta testing for latest Forms versions, so we did with Forms 12C. That enables us to include in PITSS.CON in our solution very fast any functionality required by latest Forms versions and releases provided by Oracle. We are very, very busy in the Forms community. We join directly or together with partners a lot of events. We run a lot of presentations, webinars, of course. So whenever you have the chance to join us on an on-site session or an on-site event, take a look for PITSS. We would be very happy to welcome you at one of our stands. Well, the one joining those that we provide our solution called PITSS.CON. PITSS.CON is not only a one-time or disposable product. Depending on customer premises, it's a short and long-term and multifunctionality tool to reduce costs, to improve development processes and further application maintenance, to speed up migration and upgrade projects, and also the ongoing support of forms and reports applications. So with PITSS.CON, we offer a huge stack of functionality. We're very known as an innovative product for analyzing, for maintaining forms applications, and even supporting the evolvement of these apps to the latest Oracle technology stack. So the PITSS focus, our company, focus doing forms. Well, we live forms since more than 22 years, starting experience with Forms 2.0, the whole line up to 12c. We care about service-oriented architecture, about the methodology, since more than 13 years in the market now, so huge experience in web services, in WebLogic server, BPM, all around Oracle technology stack. We already have huge experience in ADF modernization projects, starting with forms migrations in 2006. Already did the first migrations to ADF. And of course, the mobile MIF applications that become more and more important for customers depending on the business processes. It's a lot of forms customers need to integrate new technologies, so we provide here exactly huge expertise and support our customers in all these related products and technologies. Well, our product, just working on PowerPoint, of course. Already have many very happy customers around the globe, be it in Europe, Middle East, North Africa, and Asia Pacific, or the Americas. So if you are particularly interested in the one or the above, for a lot of customers on the slides, we do have success stories in place, so we find a lot of references on our webpage. You must see that all of these companies have one thing in they're using homemade Oracle Forms and Reports applications, or even provide Oracle Forms-based applications as ISV partners. So it's very interesting to see also referring to our attendees list of today's webinar. We welcome attendees, you from more than 30 countries globally. You see that you are in a very good company using forms. And that's also for us very interesting when we're doing these forms webinars and forms seminars, that we see that forms is globally still very, very productive. We see a lot of very, very interesting productive applications running forms and reports technologies since a long time, and still need to evolve to new versions, probably also to new technologies or to new infrastructure. Okay, so before handing over to David, I would appreciate very much, I would like if you could give us some feedback, because it's very important for us to get at least a feeling. I would like to start a quick poll. Give me a second. For us, it would be very interesting to let us know what you are using, means what firms version are currently in use, what are productive, and in the next quick poll, let us hear about your timetable to modernize. I appreciate if you tick the box. Just 5 more seconds. Keep it open. I appreciate if you give us a feedback. So for us, it's always important to get your feedback, get the feedback on the market, to present to you also tailored solutions to give you the best information possible so that you get the best out of those events, those webinars or documentation or white papers that we regularly provide in the market. Okay, let it open for 3, 2, 1, and close it. Let's have a look. 1 moment. It should work. Okay. So I try to give you a second poll. This would be closed just to give us a feeling on the timetable. If I see it. Okay. Okay, so I will start the poll later on. I think that we have some quick, small technical problem. So at this time, I would like to hand over then to move forward with David. David, are you there?
I am indeed, Sasha. Thank you very much.
That's perfect. I will hand over the moderator rights.
Thank you. Okay.
I should have it.
I should be sharing my screen now.
Yes, it works perfect. Thank you.
Good. Well, afternoon, good morning, everyone, from a very wet and miserable Twickenham. Seeing the number of people and number of countries that were represented there, I was just working out, I've probably been to about 75% of those over my years of working in technology, but if anyone wants to invite me to one of the warmer ones, I'd certainly appreciate that in the near future, because it's not been a great year here in London. But anyway, moving on. I'm going to give you an update on what's new in Forms 12C. 12C came out last October, and we've been seeing a gradual move of clients to the latest version. And it's interesting in that poll to see a good 80 or 90% of you are already on 10 or 11, which is good to see. People are certainly heeding the warnings and moving forward. And I think the more you keep up with Oracle technology and the latest versions, the easier it becomes. Certainly moving from, if you're stuck on Forms 3, which nobody was, but I occasionally speak to somebody who is, or 6i, it's a much bigger struggle moving forward than being on 10 or 11 going up to 12C. So I want to go through some of the things we found as we've been using 12C. The first section talks about the new features in 12C, and I've blatantly taken quite a few of the slides from Michael Ferrante, who I'm sure many of you know. Michael is the long-standing product manager for Oracle Forms, based out of Orlando, and was working in Oracle support for a good number of years, supporting Oracle Forms and other technologies. So a great wealth of both product and technical knowledge on the subject. So going forward, I think this is probably one of the most important bits of information that Michael's been handing out. And it's the fact that many people were thinking that Forms was just about to die a death. Lots of new technologies coming along from Oracle, both, mainly on the web, but on the Java side with ADF, Apex, cloud services, application builders. There's a lot of stuff coming out from Oracle at the moment. And we're looking at it thinking, well, Forms is dead, and we've got these applications that are core to our business. But we can see now that the version that we've now got, 12C, is going to be supported by Oracle support out to at least October 2020. That's standard Premier support. And if you want to put your hand in your pocket and get a little more support from Oracle for that version, I think it's an extra 10% the first year, 20% for the second and third years going out to 2023. You really can plan ahead, and it gives your existing applications a good life going ahead. One word of warning, though: if being on a supported platform is critical to your organization, then December 2016, for all of those 90% on either 10 or 11, it is time to be thinking about moving forward, and that's what this session is about. I just saw, I think it was last week or the week before, that a patch release has just come out. So we've got 12.2.1.1 has just been released. I've yet to see what bugs have been fixed or any new features in that. I suspect it's just going to be a bug fixing release, and I've not implemented that yet, but hope to do so in the coming weeks. If I find anything interesting, I will certainly let you guys know. Right, the first area I wanted to cover was security risks of being on older versions. If you're coming from much earlier versions, such as client server to the web, then client server, you had an internal network running TCP/IP from which the data and part of the program was going up and down the line within your organization. As you move to the web, things get a lot more complex, because a typical browser screen on a desk in an office has access to not only the internal network, but certainly the external network as well. And you could find yourself being attacked from outside. Now, I know you have firewalls, etc., but if you can comply to Oracle's recommendations and the network provider's recommendations, it puts you in good stead. And unfortunately, their recommendations are typically always on the most recent products. So we were seeing a lot of browser risks, and there's a quote here from Google talking about the NPAPI, which was the first way of putting forms onto or within a browser. This plug-in technology to fire up the Java applet. Google said, the NPAPI plugin was causing all sorts of problems, hangs, crashes, security incidents, etc. And they've removed it from Chrome. And we're certainly seeing the other browsers gradually withdrawing support for the old Netscape API. There are other ways of doing this, but you need to be on the latest versions to be able to do this sort of thing. One thing I would also investigate is, what is your corporate standard for browsers? Oracle have a very good list of what they support, which version you should be on, and all of these things are tested heavily in the labs and by their security professionals to ensure that you are at less of a risk security-wise. So do think about that. Then we're going to talk on a little further here, talking about the options going forward if you can't use this NPAPI plugin. And in Forms 12C, out of the box, we get 4 different types of deployment options. There's a very good certification matrix here for the browsers, which I've listed here. You'll get a copy of the slides on completion of the webinar, and we will also post a copy of this overall webinar. So don't fear and don't panic trying to write this thing down at the moment. So we've got 4 different types. We've got the existing Java applet plugin that has been the default for many years and has worked very well, but it's certainly becoming more of an issue. As we move forward, we've got 3 options here: the Java Network Launch Protocol, and Java Web Start, and the standalone option. All of these are documented very well on various websites and in an Oracle support document. What I've been seeing a lot of interest from clients is in this standalone option. You end up having a small jar file on your client, so you end up you do have a little bit of code on the client. I know this was always the argument against client server, that we had to maintain code on a client, but it seems to be a very good option and removes the necessity to have a browser in your environment or start a browser to get access to your forms. Certainly worth investigating, and I've been using this for a little while. A couple of limitations on this: single sign-on won't work if you're using single sign-on. Obviously, the single sign-on elements are held in the browser cache, and other things such as being able to run JavaScript in your forms. Obviously, if you haven't got a browser open, the JavaScript won't work. So a couple of limitations, but I don't often come across customers running JavaScript. Perhaps you do. But anyway, there are some very good examples in the formsweb.cfg. Right, working through quite a substantial list here. Oracle BI Publisher, an interesting tool, not something I've generally used. My background was in, showing my age here, the original Oracle Reports tool, RPT, moving on to Reports Writer and Reports. BI Publisher is not something I've used. We do have a lot of experience from the company and we offer training in BI Publisher, but the integration with forms is significantly better. And if you've integrated reports in with your Oracle forms, it works in a very, very similar manner. Well worth investigating. A lot of business intelligence reporting, being able to push out your reports in a multitude of ways. You can push them out to the cloud, get encryption if you're pushing data out to the cloud. There's a multitude of different language options. You can distribute it to all sorts of devices. So BI Publisher is certainly something worth considering. I've seen quite a few questions on reports, where there's that going. You don't see many enhancements from Oracle in Oracle reports. We are seeing movement in forms, so I think the writing might be on the wall, but I'm sure Oracle will support it for a good number of years yet. Anyway, well worth having a look at BI Publisher, and certainly if you're running things like Oracle E-Business Suites, the ERP stuff, even PeopleSoft and JD Edwards certainly have been using BI Publisher in the past, so perhaps an option for you. We've just spoken about the new client deployment options. Customizable color schemes I'm going to speak about in a few moments, as I will do system events and the record manager. A few improvements to the Java Developers API. This is for the likes of us, and we use the C Developers API as well, to create FMV files and manipulate FMV files. Don't suspect that there's many of you who will get super excited about the improvements in the JD API, but they're there nonetheless. You're probably going to be running the Fusion middleware, monitoring service and configuration utilities, and better facilities have been introduced there for monitoring and diagnostics. And in fact, you can do a lot more of the configuration of the environment, the forms environment, rather than having to dive down 10 layers of directories to find where the forms web and registry, etc. is hidden. So a lot of work going on, obviously, from Oracle in that area, which if you're used to using the web as things like Enterprise Manager to configure your environment, the Fusion middleware controller is certainly worth having a look at. What else have we seen? A little bit of get set values in non-current items, a nicety. I haven't used that. And the same with the JavaScript. I've not personally used JavaScript within my forms, but Oracle is fixing bugs, or at least creating new features and extending features to users' demands, which I think is all a good sign for the future of forms going forward. A nice option while you're doing the install, which can be a little complex, as ever with doing an Oracle install, print out that documentation and tick off the lines of the installer. The form-only option makes things a little easier, so that you can just run a form locally and without having to install the multiple stack that it now comes with. A nice facility for those of you who are not using OLE integration, but do use WebUtil to perhaps load up files, etc., into your database and store them there. Then there's a new WebUtil option which doesn't incorporate the OLE, so it's a sort of lightweight version of that, should you be looking for that area. But as ever, give it a whirl, test it before you implement it in the production environment. A bit about forms, the record manager. I think a lot of work has been done in record manager and performance of forms, which is a good thing. My experience was always that the forms performance was directly proportional to the database design. So if you had a poor database design, you were invariably having poor forms because people perhaps hadn't designed it in the correct way and weren't using indexes, or were stopping the indexes being used. But where I've seen poor performance, it's typically been through nothing to do with forms itself and the handling of records, but there's some interesting extra data you can retrieve on how the record manager is performing, a set of new system variables to inspect to look at how the memory usage is being done. Is it being stored in memory or on disk, etc. I did write a short article on this in my own personal blog at xemacro.com, so if you want a little more details on that, please wander over there and have a look. But you know, again, Oracle's doing some interesting stuff in this area, improving it perhaps based on feedback on perhaps some very large environments. W systems events, I thought these were quite interesting to monitor. You know, what's happening within that system environment, perhaps on the laptop. You know, how long has this environment been idle? Has my video just finished? What should I do at that event? So a very simple little bit of code, again pulled from Michael's example. You know, if the last event's the system client idle flag has been alerted, then perhaps show an alert that your screen's been idle for so long, we're going to log you off or something like that. So some nice little utilities that Oracle is adding to the mix here, which I think everyone appreciates. For the builder itself, those of you actually building out forms, I think they're all usability things. I think they must have sat down and put a few people in a room and said, there'll be some forms and let's see how you interact with the builder. I know this was done many years ago, but it's good to see them revisiting this. So in the General tab now, we've got a drop-down list for the different browsers. For those of you who want to use the new Microsoft Edge, there's a clue in that little on the screen here how to access that. It wasn't exactly obvious when I first tried it, but you can have a list of different browsers there to test. A nice one is putting the compiler output, the FMX files, into a different directory. As was always traditional, you ended up with your FMBs and your FMXs in the same directory. Never a great thing, but and something if you came from a traditional programming background, you didn't have your source code and your executables in the same directory, and you ended up moving them around. A nice option when you run the form and it fires up or sends a URL to your browser, you can now have the choice to see exactly what's being sent to in that URL. Certainly helps a little bit of debugging if you're wondering which options are being called or which language, which username, password, etc. Some multiple property inherits things have been added into the navigator and the property palette. That's you know, small niceties that have obviously come from watching users developing forms. And some mouse sizing icons have been improved when you're sizing up text fields and various elements within your layout. So you know, they're not huge advances for Oracle Forms. You know, when you compare it with what you might be seeing in JET and Math and MCS, you know, they're small enhancements, but you know, it's been around a long time, and it's certainly proving the trust many people are putting in it. An interesting area that Oracle's added to, and we'll see this in the color scheme, is that you can start to alter the look and feel of your forms without altering the code. So it's altering environment variables. On the left, we've got some of the applet parameters you can change. One of these is the custom color scheme, idle timeout, dynamic layout, you know, create the initial screen in the middle, etc. And then some environment variable checking. So there's lots of bits and pieces going on around this, which I think, you know, having to, one of the things many customers are seeing is that, you know, we're stuck with the code. We don't want to touch the code. The developers have moved on, but we've got a critical application. How do we improve the look and feel? So Oracle's adding things outside of the PL/SQL code, the built-in code, etc., within your forms. So you can start to enhance the look and feel without tampering with the code, which I think is a good thing. Right. As things are moving on, these forms applications are getting older. Certainly, I've seen forms applications 20, 30 years old that are still working within organisations and working very, very well. They start up within the business, they're taken over by the IT organisation. But a typical issue is that there's poor documentation, and that poor documentation of the environment and how the forms fit together, etc., etc., limits how quickly you can make changes. I know I actually looked after a system at Oracle, which is an Oracle Forms 3 system, and we were using all sorts of different flags to do all sorts of things, and I dread to think whatever happened to that system, because the documentation was certainly relatively poor. We have a tool, PITSS.CON, to make the creation of documentation a little more easier than having to handcraft and work your way through the forms each time you want to make a change. So I wanted quickly to cover some of these options that we've got. The first option is looking at your overall application and how it fits together. And we did one of these recently for a client, and it ended up in a 6 metre by 1 metre poster that we wrapped around the wall, and it was fascinating to see their developers look at the code and where the various forms, object libraries, menus were sitting. This is something that we can create for you. What we do is we load all the forms and all of your artifacts into the repository that we have underlying PITSS.CON, and then we generate out a multitude of reporting and facilities such as this screen, so you can start to document how the thing fits together. And I think one of the most interesting areas are these elements that are detached, i.e. nothing calls them and they don't call anything else. And I would call that redundant or dead or unused, or code that's sitting there and doesn't need to be maintained. So it's an interesting exercise to identify how your form application fits together. Then drilling down a little bit, we can diagram how your individual forms fit together, what functions, blocks, triggers, tables are used. I went to another client where they were spending a minimum of 3 weeks just analysing if they're going to make a change to a column within the table, where would that affect, and where do we need to take something into account and change something, or even just test that it still works. Using this tool, you can see the impact analysis. Where's a column used? It's used in this form, it's used in this database table, a procedure, package, wherever. So we get full documentation of data usage for impact analysis and dependency analysis. So all comes within our tool. A big area that a lot of customers I see doing is actually outsourcing some code development, whether that's to contractors coming within your organization, whether it's to an organization external to yourselves. The code quality is always in question. What are we paying for? How do we judge the quality? How difficult will it be to maintain or change that code? And what we have is a Forms Code Quality Analyzer, which uses industry standards to measure that code quality. So Cyclomatic is actually looking at the path through the code, house volume, looking at the operands and operations within the code, and the maintainability index, which is a combination of the Cyclomatic and Halstead's measurements combined with the number of lines of code. I'm sure you wouldn't be surprised that many of these applications we see are getting fairly large and are in the millions of lines of code level. 1,000 forms for an application is not unusual. But what we get here is a measurement of how complex a form is, perhaps before and after it's been modified. It gives you data so that you can say, if an end user comes to you and says, well, look, we want to make some modifications to this area of your application, you can actually go back and say, well, actually, that area is a relatively easier area to modify, or it's a very complex area. So you need, it sort of adds weight to your project planning and how you're going to suggest to your end users that it's going to take 3 or 4 weeks to make what appears to be a very, very simple modification. I know end users tend to forget that there's testing and impact analysis to be done, etc. But these sort of screens and this sort of data can help you give feedback to your end users and sort of validate your timings. Another area that just helps with your documentation, but also helps with some other areas that we work with, is user stories. Now, what we do, we can automatically inject some code into your forms, and then you get your end users to do some, create an invoice, update an invoice, send a purchase order, etc. And we measure all the touch points, and we can see how long it takes, where are the bottlenecks, etc. So what we can then do is replay them, and when you replay them, you can again see those bottlenecks and talk to the end users about how they're using the tool, and then suggest, well, actually this area we can put some improvements into. So you may see something that's used many, many times, but is actually performing poorly. Let's put some effort into that area and fix it. Typically we see a lot of PL/SQL executed on the client that's accessing a lot of database activity or requiring a lot of database activity. Well, the natural place to have that PL/SQL executed is on the server. So it might identify things like that, and we can very easily help move that PL/SQL up to the server. Right. Taking advantages of Forms 12c new features. I mentioned custom colors. Now, this may seem a bit, no, it's not something we'd ever be interested in, but I've seen some very interesting usages of this so far. So what we're saying is we can set the colors, as we're seeing through here, based on the environment rather than hard-coded within your form. So here we've got perhaps a development, QA and test, or 3 different clients, or 3 different countries. You can start to think that each country or each example may require a different color. How you do this? Well, it's a little bit of editing of 2 files, registry.dat and formsweb.cfg. And here, again, I've written a short article in my own blog into which of these parameters changes what in your form. But what I've done, I've created a form, and hopefully you can see that being executed here. So let's execute the query. And what I wanted it to do was actually apply a standard custom color scheme. But what's happened is that it's been overridden by some hard-coded background color settings within my FMB and indeed the FMX. So if you've done that right across your system, changing that could be quite a lengthy operation. So what I wanted to do was introduce you to our PITSS.CON tool. Again, this has been written in it's running in Forms 12c. We upgraded it to Forms 12c when Forms 12c came out. So what I've got here, this is the front end to the tool itself, a little menu along the side here. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail on the tool today. I'm sure if you want a lot more detail, give us a call, drop us an email, and we can go into that. So what I've done in the maintenance here, I've loaded all my database objects in, and I've loaded my modules, a module being a form, and hopefully you can see here that we've got 2 forms, HR7 and HR8. They've been loaded into my repository. So the structure has been extracted from the FMB and divided up amongst our repository tables. For those of you who remember Designer, it's something very, very similar to that. The Designer pulled information and reverse engineer forms into the Designer repository. This is exactly what this tool does. So we've now got all the objects from within our form in the repository, and we can manipulate them. So I can go to development, and I want to change the properties. What I'm trying to do is get rid of those color settings. So what I want to do here is go and look for any items in my forms where the colour, background colour, isn't set to null. And our little option for null is star, 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 star. So I want to run that, and we can see that all these elements, all these items within my form, don't have a background setting that's set to null. So we can change that. So what I'm doing is it's a query, search value is that, and I want to change it to star, 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 which is null. So I can run that, and it's immediately gone through. I know I've only got 2 forms here, but it could be 1,000 forms, and it will do it pretty much as quickly. So that's now set the repository for the background colours for those items to be null. What we can then do is go into the maintenance and the module handling, and for this one HRH we can update it, and the background colours will have changed. So the next time we load this form, we should see that if I bring it up in my screen here, there we go, form's already open, there we go. Right, and HR7, tools, layout wizard, there's the other one. And with a bit of luck, I'll have to rerun that, but as ever with running a live demo, it has a hiccup. I'm not, as time's galloping on, I will revisit that and perhaps include a little demo for you guys to download. Bear with me. But the whole idea is that we can do mass updates of elements within the repository and then automatically compile them out, update them in the FMB, and compile them as FMX files, very, very rapidly. So if you've set the background color to something strange, away you can go and update things very, very rapidly. Right, very conscious time's getting on. Impact and dependency analysis, we have, because we've loaded everything into the repository, if you want to change a column, such as here, we're looking at perhaps a column within countries, country name, we can go and see where it's been selected, where it's used, etc. So again, going back to my tool, we can exit out of there and look at the application analysis. Very quickly look at this. It needs to be parsed. We have a quick parsing, run the task, parsing all the elements, all the forms, all the database objects. So we can now look at a database object and say, well, we know we're running something within the table, countries, where's my country name used, and we can show the impact. It's used in a forms module, it's used in a procedure, etc. Now, this organization I went to recently, it was taking 3 or 4 weeks to manually go through and check where these things were being done. So a very useful application of our technology. Very quick demo. Redundant and dead code. Now, if you think about those diagrams we had earlier, we were certainly seeing objects that weren't called or weren't calling anything, so they were certainly potential that they were redundant or dead code. But we can also go through looking at tables that are never called. We can almost guarantee that there will be some temporary tables that were created several years ago for a particular report, or some forms were tested and they get left in or pulled into production environment. Typically we're seeing up to 30% of your environment is being maintained but is never ever used. 48% is the highest I've seen so far, but I'd love you to put us to the test. We could do an analysis of your environment and tell you what's not being used very, very rapidly by going through a quick analysis of what's your form's application. I think lastly, looking at Translation Hub, it's becoming more and more evident that certainly there's requirements within industries to support multiple languages. Even in that English-speaking England, we have to support multiple languages because we have independent software vendors who are selling their products around the world. Translation Hub was quite a useful tool for this, and you can generate your form based on various dictionaries that have been created within Translation Hub. For some reason, Oracle's decided that it doesn't appear to be moving forward. I've not seen a definitive statement, but we've only seen a 32-bit version and no 12C version of Translation Hub. With what we've done ourselves, we can suck in those dictionaries those multi-language dictionaries from Translation Hub, and rather than generating out a form for English, a form for French, a form for Dutch, etc., we can generate out a multi-language dynamic form. So setting an environment variable or setting something as you start up the form picks the language that you want to see the form in. Something that Oracle seems to have shied away from. We might see an announcement about Translation Hub. I've seen various comments in the various community boards, but no definitive statement as yet. But certainly it's only available in 32 bits. So if you've got concerns on translations, multi-language forms, give us a shout. Right, I think this is the last screen from me. The cost of doing nothing, sitting still. Leaving well alone costs nothing, absolutely true, and just hoping that nothing's going to go wrong. We've had several examples from clients where they phone us in a panic, we need to upgrade, but we don't have the knowledge or equipment or the staff to do it, where we've helped them upgrade very, very rapidly. For example, a disk fails on a machine, and this happened at a hospital in the UK. The disk failed. It was surprisingly a Forms 3 application. The engineer came along, popped in a new disk, restored the data, and in doing so he also revved the operating system a few digits. So we had a slightly newer version of the operating system on which Forms version 3 did not work, and it was a disaster. A core system to your environment. So they dashed around trying to find an old disk on eBay, which they couldn't, but they wouldn't be the first organisation looking on eBay for disks to keep as spares. So if you are running old versions, eBay may be the answer. Also, people will fail. I don't see a huge number of people coming through learning forms. Java, Apex, ADF, etc. Yes, there's quite a pool of people. I don't think it's quite becoming the COBOL of the Oracle environment. So there's certainly people out there, but where is this forms knowledge going? So you do need documentation. You do need to keep pace with the latest versions. If you do get problems, it's easier to find people with the latest versions of Oracle experience. You're also paying out for Oracle support and maintenance, whether it's 18, 20, 22% or more, for a desupported product. Now, Oracle support is typically very good, even on a desupported product, and will do their best to help. But they're certainly within their rights to say, sorry, it's time to upgrade. So you may be paying a huge cost for perhaps no support at all. And you need to keep pace for end user satisfaction, or rather their dissatisfaction with the lack of progress keeping pace with your enhancement requests, or their enhancement requests. So I would certainly recommend that it's worth considering getting to the latest version and perhaps using some of the new facilities within 12C that Oracle have implemented. So with that, I'm going to hand back to Sasha. As we said, please ask any questions in the chat. Back to you, Sasha.
Okay. Thank you very much, David. Here we are. Very good. Thank you very much for this interesting insight view, this technical overview and provision of benefits possible for a lot of applications, for sure. Well, in the meantime, I found our second poll, and I would like to start this quick poll right now to ask you about your modernization project timeline, if you consider a modernization, if you think about next step, what timeline you would consider, gives us at least a first taste, first view on what your plans are and what time frame you're thinking about a modernization to latest forms. General, thank you very much. Appreciate your feedback here. Quick tick. Okay. A couple of answers still come in. Keep it open for another 3, 4, or 2, and 1. Okay. Thank you very much at this stage for your answers. So, well, at this point, let us move forward with a quick summary of our approach and what we could offer to you to do the first successful step to realize these requirements. For sure, you are aware that an upgrade process is not only a push on the bottom, but moreover requires proper analysis, an application preparation or cleanup, as David mentioned and demonstrated, depending on your requirements, of course. Well, our tool-supported upgrade approach is based on a proven cost and time-effective methodology. It can be summarized in our move to 12C in 6 steps or even less. You already started today with joining this webinar today. So you had a first inside view from our side as far regarding a forms modernization. Next step could be an individual web session tailored to your requirements. This is something that we offer, of course. Tailored to your requirements, we can discuss all your individual questions, really depending on your status quo and what are your plans to do this. David mentioned already our analysis capability included in the tool, and we have a focus here also on an upgrade analysis, including our expert system, the basis of PITSS.CON included. We can do an upgrade analysis assessment to identify all necessary steps to upgrade your applications, to analyze the efforts that are behind in cost and time, and of course set up a dedicated project plan together with you, so to see the steps, what has to be done, and how you can benefit of the modern features. What is the impact of your current application, of course. And another step possible, you can have a trial on a virtual sandbox that we can provide, and to see this in a next step, of course, on the whole package that we offer, always tailored to your requirements. As I mentioned, we can do that. We offer upgrade packages tailored to your individual requirements, including an upgrade to Forms 12C. We can provide and will provide training, a WebLogic server database, or support you during the whole project with all our expert services, our consulting team. This is our daily business, and we would like to share our expertise with your team, of course. The cleaning and application cleansing, where you can save and clean, out of our experience, between 25–30% in average. This is our experience. So finally, it's about shortened projects. It's about safe migration. It's about saving cost and time, working time cost effective, so that you can move forward with your core business successfully in a supported platform. So this is our offer that we can give you regarding an analysis. So again, come back to us at any time. We have a dedicated upgrade analysis available, and assessment, and of course do this upgrade workshop on site based on your your individual application, not on a dummy application. We cover your application in this kind of workshops, and you will see what you get and the results. You will be happy to see this, I can assure you. Okay, so at this point, I would like to open the Q&A session. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to place it now in the question chat. So let's see. David, do you see the questions?
Yes, I've got one question here. From somebody asking about the changes in WebUtil in 12c. Well, firstly, I should comment that the upgrade from our own 11G R2 release up to 12c was relatively straightforward. There were a couple of the small bugs which Oracle supported us and we found workarounds for. But in WebUtil, the existing WebUtil is still there. There's just the option to start running it without the OLE, the Microsoft OLE embedded options if you were writing things out to spreadsheets and stuff like that, and to Word documents. If you're not using that, then you can look at using the new WebUtil without OLE. But other than that, the same facilities are available, and as you can see, we use some of those, loading up files, etc. So I think we should be okay with that. That was one question that came in. What's the next one? We can. There's quite a few here now. Bear with me. Right, what have we got? Is the recording going to be provided for afterward? Yes, definitely. We recently updated one of our databases to 12c, and I should comment that that's another big plus of moving to 12c. You can keep pace with the other Oracle technology that's going forward. So we recently updated one of our databases to 12c in Container Plus 1 pluggable databases format. Attempted to move this from WebLogic 10.3.6 to Forms 11G. However, although it works, we're having issues where some of our reports have additional parameters and they cause the reports engine to crash. Sounds like a very specific bug. If you'd like to drop me an email with more details in that, and then we can always take it up with the support team at Oracle. It sounds very specific, that one. Not seeing too many issues with reports ourselves. Hello, I joined 5 minutes ago. Is it possible to receive the slides? Yes, we'll have the slides. Is 12c version of Oracle Forms and Reports require 12c database? No, it does run against 11G, and as ever, check the support requirements on OTN, Oracle Technology Network. Just go to the Forms site. They do change. So I'm very loath to say this is the exact version. Will be interesting, the recent comment by Oracle that the next version of the database will be cloud only. So it's going to be interesting what they do with Forms and accessing that. Watch this space. We'll certainly investigate that. I'm using several functionalities of WebUtil. I think we've covered that one. Standalone method. Does it support Java Beans? Now that's an interesting question. I will have to get back to you on that one. Bear with me. We will reply. We have everyone's email addresses, so bear with us. I don't know. Over the period, Forms used in legacy systems is reduced. According to your experience, what is the ratio of using Forms in legacy systems nowadays? What's the ratio of Forms? Obviously, we're operating a relatively new business in the UK here, and I work a lot with the Oracle sales guys across the region. And one of the target areas we've been working with is Oracle customers who've been working with Oracle database for 15, 20, 30 years. Now, if you've been working with Oracle database for many years, you will have been using Oracle Forms. And we do see a large majority of those still in existence. We are seeing people discuss moving on to other technologies, but you have to understand where you are today. And I think Oracle's commitment, there aren't any huge changes other than it's going to be supported. We're doing bug fixing. There's some little enhancements coming along the way. So I think there's security in the future if you are running forms. I think if you've got huge changes in business requirements, then that might be the time to start looking at, we need to document the system and perhaps look at other technologies. Again, we can have those individual discussions, and it really is a one-on-one discussion with individual clients that we have as to whether they will go to the latest version of forms. And if you're on 11G or 10 or 11, that's a relatively straightforward thing to do. WebLogic may be a bit of a leap, and you might need some assistance there, or just an extra pair of hands to help move the application. But if it's big changes in business requirements, perhaps going to considering the cloud or considering mobile technologies, etc., then that might be the time to move forward. What IE browser does Oracle recommend for 12C? Again, there was a URL in one of the slides that takes you to the supported configuration. Don't you work with Ireland anymore? Now, that's a question I don't know about. Sasha, don't you work with Ireland anymore?
No, for sure. For sure, okay. We work. We wait for the half final of the European Championship.
Okay. Thank you.
No, for sure, definitely, yeah.
I promise we weren't going to mention the football. Couldn't resist, could you? Translation Hub is just translation. We have applications in Hebrew and English. How Translation Hub works with right to left and left to right. I believe we support that, don't we, Sasha? Left to right and right to left?
Yes, we do support this.
Get in touch. I know Sasha has experience of working with left to right and right to left, most definitely. So Sasha will be the one to speak to. Okay, Java Beans as well, a couple of questions. Can I run Forms 12C embedded in ADF? Ooh, that I don't know. I'll ask one of our Java heads in Stuttgart about that. Lastly, if we use methods of WebUtil library, will these methods are equivalent if we choose Java Web Start? Yeah, they seem to work. It's not occurred to me that they wouldn't. But again, I will check and make sure we get individual answers on the Java side. Okay, a good combination of questions there. Thank you very much for participating. Any other questions coming in from anywhere else? Definitely.
Okay, so if not for the moment, of course you can drop us an email, send us your questions. Definitely. On the other hand, wrap up. You can watch out a 3-minute video. Just summarize the Forms 12C new features. You find it on our YouTube channel. Check out our website. So it's quite interesting. And 3 minutes you get a quick overview on this. Just to point out our next events and webinar, we're running a lot of events, as I mentioned at the beginning, on-site sessions. So also check out regularly our website, and for our next webinars already scheduled for July, talking about mobile apps, what is important for development. There's another one scheduled for mid of August, smart transition from legacy Oracle Forms to SOA, mobile and the cloud. And for September, we have scheduled the final webinar, one of our webinar series we started earlier this year, talking about Oracle Forms to ADF, Apex, any technology migration. The final part, you will find the sessions performed earlier this year also in our YouTube channel. You find all these versions and webinars recorded here. Subscribe, check out regularly. We have a lot of stuff here available, a lot of videos, webinars, and interesting information about forms, around forms, reports, Oracle technology, ADF, Apex, everything that we care about and focus about with PITSS and our expertise. Okay, some final contact informations. If you would like to get in touch with us, we would be happy to hear from you. For the PITSS Americas, my colleague Jason Mara, contact him at jmara@pitsamerica.com. For PITSS UK and other global, of course, my colleague David Brown at dbrown@PITSS.com or myself at ssander@PITSS.com. Would be happy to hear from you. And well, at this stage, let me thank you, David, for your great presentation.
Thank you, Sasha.
All attendees, thank you for your time. We are looking forward to meeting you. Thank you. Have a great day or a great and nice evening wherever you are. Hope you have enjoyed today's session. We did. Thanks and goodbye.
Goodbye.